a burning building, a firefighter who lost his life, and a meeting with Jesus in eternity. What he revealed about this month of November may shake your faith or perhaps strengthen it like never before. Get ready to hear the astonishing story of Miguel, who crossed the border between life and death. My name is Miguel Oliveira, and I have been a firefighter in the vibrant city of São Paulo for 15 years. Throughout all these years, I have faced the challenge of entering burning buildings, rescuing people from destroyed vehicles, and assisting victims of disasters. On this journey, I had the opportunity to witness both the noblest gestures and the darkest moments of humanity. I have seen families who, in a matter of minutes, lose everything they have built. At the same time, I have witnessed true miracles in finding survivors in places where hope seemed to have faded away. Throughout this journey, my faith in God has manifested in a practical way, although it has always remained somewhat distant. It was a kind of faith that arose from the everyday experience of facing life and death, but without ever truly diving into that relationship. On October 28, 2025, just 8 days ago, everything changed for me. There was something in the air that felt different that night. A sense of apprehension took hold of me, an emotion I couldn't explain. Our battalion was called to combat a fire in a housing complex in the East Zone. The first information we received indicated that the fire had started on the ground floor and spread rapidly to the upper floors. There were reports of residents trapped in their apartments. By the time we arrived, the flames had already taken over a large part of the structure. The heat was intense even from a distance. The sirens, the screams, and the chaos intertwined, creating a scene that was part of our daily lives. However, that night everything felt more amplified, more urgent. I remember watching the sky as I put on my protective gear. It was surprisingly clear, with twinkling stars, even in the face of the city's light pollution. Our team organized itself and split up to begin the rescue. My partner Lucas and I were assigned the mission to investigate the third floor, where reports had emerged of a family that was still trapped. The commander granted us only a few minutes for this task, as the building's structure was compromised and at risk of collapsing at any moment. We entered the building, climbing up the stairs that had already been partially devoured by the flames. The heat was oppressive even with our protective gear. The thick smoke made it almost impossible to see beyond a few inches in front of us. We used the standard technique, keeping contact with the walls, ensuring constant communication, and making calculated movements. Upon reaching the third floor, we began checking the apartments. In the first two, we found empty spaces where the flames had already spread, consuming the furniture and devouring the walls. In the third apartment, we found a family in distress. A mother and her 2 small children were huddled in the bathroom, where the smoke had not yet invaded with full intensity. Lucas took on the responsibility of taking them downstairs while I took care of checking the last apartment on that floor. It was at that moment that everything started to crumble. Literally. I heard a deafening crash and felt the ground beneath my feet shake violently. Part of the ceiling collapsed behind me, blocking the path we had taken. I tried to communicate over the radio, but all I heard was static. I was alone, surrounded by flames, and the oxygen in my tank was running out quickly. With that in mind, I decided to explore the last apartment before looking for an alternative escape route. The door was locked, but it yielded easily to my push. To my surprise, the smoke inside the room was less dense, something unusual given the chaotic state of the rest of the building. Cautiously, I advanced down the hallway, calling out for anyone who might be there. It was then that I came across something that defied all logic and the training I had received. In the center of the room of that apartment, where flames were devouring the walls and the ceiling was beginning to collapse, there was a figure, a man standing serenely amidst the chaos, fixed his gaze directly on me. He was there, without any protective gear, showing no signs of panic, as if the thick smoke and intense heat did not affect him in any way. My first impulse was to run towards him to save him, but something made me hesitate. There was something in the way he looked at me, an intensity in his presence that made my heart race in a way that had nothing to do with the adrenaline of the rescue. When he reached out his hand towards me, something astonishing happened. The flames around him seemed to bend away, as if they recognized and respected the power emanating from him. "Miguel," he said in a clear and calm voice, as if we were chatting in a sunny park and not in a building about to collapse. He approached me. How did he know my name? And why wasn't he coughing with all that smoke? Why weren't his clothes singed from the heat? Thousands of questions surged in my mind in the blink of an eye, but my body was already moving toward him as if drawn by an invisible force. "Who are you?" I managed to ask, my voice muffled by the oxygen mask. "Do you know who I am?" He replied, keeping his hand outstretched, and somehow I already knew. An inexplicable certainty flooded my being. It was Jesus Christ, there in the heart of that chaos, calling for me. At that moment I heard a deafening roar. The ceiling began to collapse and a concrete block accompanied by metal beams was coming towards me. Instinctively, I raised my arms in a gesture of protection, but deep down, I knew it was in vain. That weight seemed about to crush me instantly. At the last second, I reached out my hand and managed to grab it. It was as if a switch had been turned off. The pain I felt when the beam hit me was indescribable, overwhelming and total, but, surprisingly, it lasted only an instant. Suddenly, a deep silence took over the environment. The roar of the flames, the crash of the collapsing structure, and the distant screams fell silent, as if time had stopped. I opened my eyes, not realizing I had closed them, and found myself floating above that chaotic scene. I could see my own body trapped among the rubble. Blood was running down from my head, and my protective gear was partially destroyed. Meanwhile, my fellow firefighters were entering the building, shouting my name, desperate to reach me. I saw the expression of despair on Lucas's face when they finally found me. However, the most curious thing was that I didn't feel fear. There was no pain, just a strange sense of separation, as if I were watching a movie in which one of the characters happened to have my name and my face. There was an indescribable serenity, a peace that eluded human words. And suddenly, I perceived a light. It was not like the beams from the emergency spotlights we use during rescues, nor did it resemble the flames of a fire. It was an intense, almost celestial light that seemed to radiate from all corners at once. A light that, instead of blinding, caressed the eyes and penetrated the depths of my soul. The hand of Jesus still held mine, guiding me away from that scene of destruction, towards that resplendent light. We weren't exactly walking. It was more like we were gliding, as if gravity had lost its power over us. Miguel spoke again, and his voice reverberated not just in my ears, but throughout my entire being. "I have something very important to share with you. The environment around us has completely transformed. The building is on fire, my fellow firefighters, and my body trapped among the rubble. All of this has disintegrated. Now we find ourselves in a place of indescribable beauty. It was not streets of gold, as many often describe heaven. It was something much more enchanting. An infinite garden, filled with colors that defy our imagination, that do not exist in our earthly reality. The atmosphere around seemed to sing, vibrating in a perfect harmony that enveloped everything with a feeling of indescribable peace and beauty. The first thing I noticed was the peace. Not that fleeting peace we experience after a successful rescue, nor the tranquility of a day off after long and exhausting journeys. It was a deep and absolute peace that infiltrated every particle of my being. A peace so profound that it made all the moments of tranquility I have ever experienced on Earth seem like mere disturbances in comparison. Around us, what appeared to be structures rose up, resembling buildings, but nothing I had ever seen before. They seemed like perfect beings, emanating their own light, as if they were translucent and radiant. The gardens around bloomed in colors that have no name, shades that seemed to possess depths and dimensions beyond our earthly understanding. However, what touched me the most was their presence. The feeling was overwhelming, to be fully known, understood, and loved exactly as I was. It wasn't about being loved despite my flaws, but rather in the midst of them. Every mistake I made, every moment I felt inadequate, whether as a firefighter, son, friend, or man of faith, all of it faded away in the face of that immense love. Jesus was before me. He didn't look exactly like the images we usually see in churches or religious books, but there was no doubt about his identity. His eyes were like abysses of wisdom and mercy, reflecting a knowledge that seemed to have answers to all the questions I had ever asked or would ever dare to formulate. When he looked at me, I felt as if I were transparent, completely exposed. Every secret, every doubt, every shame I tried to hide became visible. However, instead of finding judgment or condemnation, what I perceived in that gaze was a deep acceptance. "My son," he began, his voice imbued with weight, purpose, and a deep compassion. "I brought you here because significant events are about to occur, and my people need to understand their importance. November 2025 marks a crucial moment. The world you know is about to undergo trials that will reveal the foundations upon which people have built their lives. It is essential that you pay attention to what is approaching. It is essential that you open your eyes and see, not with fear, but with the truth that brings hope, and with the clarity that arises when we understand what is to come. The environment around us has begun to transform. The beautiful garden that once existed has vanished, and suddenly, I found myself confronted with unexpected visions. They were not mere images or videos. They were profound experiences in which I lived and understood, with every fiber of my being, what was about to unfold. The first vision I had was named by Jesus as the fall of false security. He held my hand and led me through a fascinating labyrinth of financial systems and economic structures. He revealed to me the intricate webs of trade, credit, and investment that sustain the lives of billions of people around the world. Every detail was a fundamental piece in the construction of the stories and journeys that shape our existences. Banks, stock markets, digital currencies, NFTs, and cryptocurrencies. These are the invisible networks of trust that sustain modern civilization. They are elements that people believe provide security, the systems in which they place their hope for the future of their children. But upon looking, I could see beyond the surface. I saw the foundations, and they were compromised. Deep cracks spread, like those that appear in a structure after an earthquake, where the fissures extend but the building still stands. Jesus revealed to me how debt has become something so common that no one questions it anymore. People are convinced that infinite growth is a possible reality. Nations take out loans as if there will never be a day when everything needs to be settled. Companies seek to leverage themselves to unimaginable levels, all in the name of the relentless pursuit of quarterly profits. And we, ordinary people like you and me, have been conditioned to believe that incurring exorbitant debts is something normal and even smart. Jesus revealed to me how the concept of risk and leverage are intertwined in such a way that, in fact, no one fully understands what is at stake. They are layers of abstractions over other abstractions, bets on bets, mathematical models that no human being can fully understand. It's like watching someone live in a house without realizing that its foundation is made of sand. I remembered your own parable about the two builders. With a tone of deep sadness, Jesus replied, "Exactly." He knew that in November, one of the cracks would become so large that no one would be able to ignore it anymore. And who knows, it may not be the entire building that collapses. It could be that a market correction surprises everyone, or perhaps a failure in digital currencies that suddenly causes people to lose access to their life savings. It is also possible that a revelation about institutional corruption could shake public trust in a devastating way. A series of failures in interconnected systems can create real panic. What once seemed solid, in which people placed their trust and on which they built their sense of security, now reveals itself to be unstable. "Is this a punishment?" I asked, curiosity mixed with a slight fear. He then replied calmly, "No, in fact, it is reality imposing itself over illusion. One cannot build something new and true on a rotten foundation. Sometimes it is necessary for false security to crumble so that what is truly strong can emerge." In that vision, I witnessed a scene of panic. The screens displayed the dizzying fall of the stock markets, while people rushed towards the banks, forming long lines of despair in an attempt to access their money. Families gathered, frantically discussing what to do in the face of the crisis. Some people were completely losing their minds due to their losses. However, the scene soon transformed, and I spotted other people different from the previous ones. These were those who had not placed all their trust in material systems. There were people who had built their lives on solid principles, prioritizing integrity over material possessions, and valuing relationships over mere accumulation of wealth. Although they showed concern for the events around them, they did not appear indifferent. Still, they were not devastated. They seemed like people who had been waiting for this moment, preparing themselves in their hearts and in their lives. They simplified their routines, reduced their dependencies, and built a true community. Although they had accumulated some resources, the most important thing was what they had cultivated internally. There was a faith kept inside me. It was at that moment that I realized that the event was not intended to destroy everyone equally. In fact, it sought to reveal who was truly prepared and who was being led astray by illusions. It was a process of separation, as the Bible says, where the wheat is distinguished from the chaff. Those who built their lives on the rock, according to Jesus' teaching, would realize that they were not as threatened as they had imagined. The perspective transformed, and then they witnessed the second event. Jesus called it the awakening of consciousness. What I witnessed was an extraordinary phenomenon, millions of people awakening at the same time. It was not a reaction to external events, although some of them might have been occurring, but rather a profound inner awakening. It was as if a collective consciousness was emerging, bringing to light a remembrance of what truly matters in life and a conviction that many were on the wrong path. He witnessed this transformation in every corner, in affluent suburbs and in underprivileged cities, in developed countries and in developing nations, both in churches and in secular work environments. He observed people turning off their devices and, for the first time in years, truly turning to their families, looking into their eyes with attention and affection. Have you ever noticed how some people ask challenging questions about their lives? This is how I would like to be remembered. I feel a deep pride in how I used my time, but I also recognize that many times I pursued goals that at first glance seemed promising. However, these achievements ended up leaving me with a feeling of inner emptiness. What would I do differently if I knew this would be my last year of life? What changes would I make? What would I truly prioritize? And, more importantly, how would this unfold, step by step? I began to notice how consciousness was awakening all around me. I remember seeing the voice, emotional, calling her grandchildren, sharing feelings and reflections that had previously seemed forgotten. Allow me to share what truly holds value. You have witnessed people seeking those they have hurt, humbly asking for heartfelt forgiveness. You have seen marriages that, with effort and love, managed to reconcile. He observed friendships being restored, reborn with new ties, and he saw individuals distancing themselves from jobs that compromised their integrity, in search of a path more aligned with their principles. A silent and profound transformation began to unfold, away from the spotlight of news and discussions in corporate boardrooms. Millions of people, in a private and discreet manner, have decided to break away from the routine of autopilot. They chose to leave behind the comfortable lie and began to seek what is genuine instead of what is merely convenient. Jesus revealed to me that this awakening would have the power to shake systems that depend on people's apathy. When consciousness is illuminated, there is no longer room for tolerance of dishonesty. Manipulation ceases to be accepted. Before we continue, just one request. Please subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot to keep going. You seek the truth rather than settling for lies that bring comfort. You have observed families coming together to discuss topics they have avoided for so long. Before we continue, just one request. Please subscribe to our channel. It really helps us keep going. They are sincere conversations, those in which feelings and thoughts that have always caused fear of being revealed are finally expressed. I have observed people making courageous decisions to live with integrity, even when it meant sacrificing their jobs or status. It was fascinating to realize how this awakening spread exponentially, from person to person, like a light that is passed from hand to hand, until it finally illuminated the entire world. The third vision I had revealed what Jesus referred to as the response of the earth. Unlike the first two visions, this one was more turbulent and intense. He showed me natural events unfolding with impressive force. Violent storms, earthquakes in unexpected places where they rarely occur, unprecedented weather patterns, intense volcanic activity, devastating floods in some regions and severe droughts in others. As I contemplated nature revealing its impressive and at the same time frightening power, I couldn't help but question it. Is this a punishment? Is God angry? Could this be a judgment on humanity? He looked at me with serenity and replied, "No, my son. It is about consequence and communication. When humanity loses its balance, when greed outweighs wisdom, and when corporations and governments neglect the health of the planet in the name of profit and immediate power, the earth responds. Not by intention, perhaps, but by consequence, like an organism that, poisoned, fights against the toxin that threatens it. The system, which had been misused, began to show failures. Amidst this, I witnessed a natural event of great magnitude unfold in November. I don't want to go into details, as I'm not sure what event occurred or exactly where, but its presence was unmistakable. It was so impactful that no one could ignore it. Its influence spread across the planet, capturing everyone's attention. It was not the apocalypse we know, but rather an unmistakable sign, a vibrant alert, a reminder that humanity is part of a much larger system. We are not above nature. Although we have a certain mastery over the earth, this was never meant to be an unrestrained exploitation or a mere extraction of resources. In fact, our relationship with the planet should be guided by careful management and responsibility. And Jesus spoke to me something that deeply surprised me, something that transformed my way of understanding the world. He said that those who have ears to hear will perceive these signs of nature not as curses, but as invitations. Invitations to live with more awareness, to respect balance, and to remember that everything is interconnected. As the situation unfolds, there will be those who panic, others who will choose denial, and some who, instead of reflecting, will choose to blame others for what is happening. There will also be those who will try to take advantage of the situation for political purposes. However, among all of them, there will be those who will reach a moment of clarity. These will understand the importance of their responsibility towards the earth that sustains them, awakening to the need to care for and protect our planet. And from this understanding, a new way of living will emerge, a way that respects the planet, that seeks balance instead of exploitation, that recognizes humanity as an integral part of nature and not as something separate from it. Thus, the fourth vision emerged, and Jesus stated that this was the most important of all. Miguel, pay close attention to this. This is the key to everything. It is the moment when hearts turn. Here lies the true revelation of the heart. What he revealed to me was the image of millions of people around the world undergoing an intense internal transformation, all at the same time. It was as if a spiritual awakening was occurring simultaneously throughout humanity, a call to something deeper and more meaningful. A silent voice begins to ask questions they have been avoiding for years. Why did they live? What really matters? What would I do differently if I had the chance to start over? Who am I, beyond all the roles, responsibilities, and achievements I carry? It was like witnessing people waking up from a long and exhausting dream, rediscovering who they really are, beyond everything society imposed on them. I observed this transformation manifesting in various ways. A striking example was that of a businessman in New York sitting at his desk, who suddenly realized that his success actually felt empty. In London, a mother closely observes her children and makes the decision to become more present in their lives. In Kenya, a teacher reflects on his practice and realizes that, although he has taught many facts, he lacks the ability to convey wisdom. Meanwhile, in Io, a farmer decides to live with more integrity, even if that choice means giving up profits. A young man began to realize that the compliments and status he valued so much seemed empty, devoid of meaning. He witnessed people experiencing profound spiritual moments that defied any material explanation. This observation awakened in him an unsettling feeling. There was something more to life, something beyond what he had been taught, a thirst for something true that touches the essence of being. Jesus taught us that this revelation would manifest in distinct ways for each individual. For some, it would be a reunion with the faith they had left behind. For others, it would represent a deeper dive into the faith they had neglected over time. For many, it will be a true spiritual awakening. However, what unites everyone is that in November 2025, millions of people will simultaneously feel a deep calling in search of meaning, connection, and God. This is the most powerful force I can unleash. Jesus revealed to me that when consciousness awakens and hearts become transparent, people begin to remember what truly matters. At that moment, the systems that rely on manipulation start to crumble, not through violence but rather by the decision of people who choose to live differently. Choosing truth over convenience, prioritizing relationships over possessions, and valuing integrity above profit. When millions of people make this decision at the same time, the world transforms. In one of my visions, I realized something fundamental. Jesus revealed to me that these 4 events are deeply intertwined. These were not just isolated occurrences, they were part of a much broader transformation. The collapse of the financial system would be the catalyst for the awakening of consciousness in countless people. When the faith in the systems that sustain their lives wanes, an impulse arises to question, to seek deeper answers. The awakening of consciousness would become deeper and spread as the earth began to reveal its response. Natural phenomena would serve as catalysts for a spiritual renaissance. People would begin to see nature as a voice crying out for attention, and thus, the revelation of the heart would start to spread, strengthening each of the other 3. Those whose hearts were awakened would react differently to the economic collapse. They would come together, helping one another. They would see natural phenomena not just as disasters but as signs that bring important messages. It was like observing dominoes arranged with precision, he explained, organized in such a way that when one is knocked over, all the others fall in a sequence of transformation. It was not a plan to cause destruction, but rather a strategy to transform everything, guiding each element toward alignment with the truth. These events are not mere coincidences, Miguel. They are intertwined in a pattern that permeates the very fabric of creation. When humanity strays from its true path, building its foundations on sand for too long, nature, consciousness, and consequences unite to bring people back to what truly matters. As the visions dissipated, I found myself once again in that stunning place beside Jesus. It was then that I understood, with crystal clarity, the reason he brought me back. I needed to be a witness to this. Humanity does not need another voice inciting fear, he told me. They have heard about fear for far too long. Terror has already settled in their hearts. What they truly need is someone to reveal the truth to them. A genuine truth presented with love, compassion, and hope. Someone who has the courage to say, yes, things are changing. Yes, the world you knew is facing great challenges. But don't be fooled. This is not the end. It is not a punishment, nor the wrath of God being unleashed. In fact, we are facing the beginning of something much better. That is exactly why we have been praying. This is how what is false finally falls apart, while what is true remains steadfast. This is the essence of transformation. This is the path that leads us back home. I felt your hand resting on my shoulder, a touch that transcended the physical and connected to the spiritual. I was fully aware that I was being sent back. I knew exactly what I needed to do. The weight of that responsibility settled upon me like a cloak, but unlike a burden, it did not oppress me. It felt heavy, yes, but laden with purpose. 1,000 questions swirled in my mind, but before I could articulate them, they seemed to dissipate into the air. What I was certain of was one thing: Jesus was not revealing these truths to instill terror or provoke panic in people. He was revealing to me the reason for his confidence in people's ability to face the truth. With this, he was showing me that November 2025 is approaching rapidly and that everyone needs to be ready for what is to come. It's not just about bunkers and supplies. While practical preparation is important and having a stocked pantry with resources is useful, true preparedness happens in our hearts. It is essential to be anchored in what really matters, connected to something deeper than the circumstances that surround us. Connected to God, connected to each other, connected to their own consciousness. It was then that I realized I was being pulled back, as if an invisible thread was dragging me toward something I couldn't see. The light began to fade, and with it, peace started to drift away. The perfect harmony once so present began to dissolve. It was then that I heard Jesus utter his last words. His voice, though distant, sounded with a surprising clarity. Tell them that we use more than they can imagine. Tell them that these 4 events do not represent the end of the world, but rather a new beginning, a rebirth. Invite them to prepare their hearts in addition to their supplies. Encourage them to awaken while they still have the chance. Tell them that I am here, calling. I am knocking at the door of their hearts, waiting for a response. For those who open their souls and remember what truly matters, who choose faith over fear, there will be a peace and a purpose that the world cannot offer, and even less, take away. I gasped and opened my eyes. The transition was abrupt and painful. I was lying in a hospital bed, surrounded by monitors, anxious faces, and the incessant sound of machines beeping around me. An emergency doctor approached, examining my pupils with a bright light. 2 nurses moved quickly, adjusting the monitors and checking my vital signs with almost automatic precision. In one corner of the room, one of my fellow firefighters was focused, speaking into the radio and relaying crucial information. Doctors were coming in and out at a rapid pace, as if time were an enemy to be defeated. And amidst all this commotion, one thought kept repeating in my mind. I had experienced clinical death. My heart stopped beating, and my brain activity ceased. For 14 minutes, I was completely dead. The paramedics who arrived at the scene later told me that they couldn't find my pulse. There was nothing around me, and yet, there I was, full of life, breathing with awareness, healed in ways that defied the understanding of every doctor who examined me. My injuries, which should have been fatal, told a different story. The impact that destroyed my body upon colliding with the debris should have led me to death instantly. I had minimal fractures, no significant internal bleeding, and fortunately, no permanent damage. For the doctors, the situation was considered impossible. But while I was lying in that hospital bed, injured, feeling pain, and above all, very much alive, all I could think about was what Jesus had revealed to me. My mind was completely absorbed in November. The responsibility that now weighed on my shoulders was immense. I needed to share this message before it was too late. This happened just 8 days ago. 8 days have passed since my recovery, and I am still immersed in a whirlwind of emotions and reflections about what I experienced. Since then, I have taken every free moment to try to understand and integrate this experience. I am in a constant internal battle, confronting what happened with everything I consider to be true. I put this experience to the test in relation to medical science, my faith, and the logic that has always guided my life. And now, we are in the early days of November, just as Jesus revealed to me. As I reflect on this and meditate more deeply, the experience becomes increasingly vivid, not less real but more intense and tangible. My body is behaving in ways that continue to surprise the doctors who examine me regularly. They cannot find an explanation for my recovery, but my spirit has been profoundly transformed by what I experienced at that threshold between life and death. I am a different person now. My way of seeing the world has changed. My priorities have transformed. My understanding of my purpose has gained a new dimension. I feel the need to share this at this moment, as we are already in November 2025, and events have started to unfold intensely. We are in the early days of this important month, and it is essential that you understand what is happening around us at this very moment. This is not about panicking or making hasty decisions. It is also not the time to stockpile supplies, build shelters, or let fear take over. Prepare yourself then. It is time to build a strong community, strengthen your heart, and get ready to help those who are feeling scared. Financial systems are about to undergo significant turbulence. This phase is approaching. Humanity's consciousness is about to awaken, whether we are ready for it or not. The Earth will manifest through the climate, natural phenomena, and unexpected events. Millions of hearts will be confronted with their own truths, forced to reflect on who they really are and what they truly believe. This does not happen by chance. It is not about cause or punishment. It is a journey of transformation and evolution, and you play a fundamental role in this process. You are not just a spectator, you are an active participant. As Jesus taught me, you don't have to face this alone. You should join something greater, a community of people who see the world clearly, who support each other, who offer comfort, and who hold on to what truly matters when everything around seems to crumble. Invite someone you trust to hear this story. Share it with the people who are part of your life. Engage in an honest conversation about what is happening around you. Don't hesitate to ask those challenging questions. Prepare your heart from now on, for November has arrived, and events begin to unfold. What Jesus revealed to me was not a plan of destruction, but rather a proposal for transformation. It was not about punishment, but about awakening. It was not the end, but the beginning of something new. For those who choose to see it this way, who prefer faith over fear, who choose community instead of isolation, who embrace truth rather than illusion, there is a bright path ahead. November 2025 will not be a month of terror, but rather a period of intense spiritual transformation. It will be a time when false foundations will finally be revealed, while the true ones will remain strong and unshakable. Jesus asked me to share with you that He is knocking at the door of your heart, eagerly waiting, calling for you. For those who choose to open their hearts and reconnect with what truly matters, who opt for faith instead of fear, there will be a peace and a purpose that the world cannot offer and cannot take away. This is the message that was revealed to me during those 14 minutes between life and death. It is a truth that I feel the need to share. November has arrived, and we are about to experience the beginning of significant events. Prepare yourself, not only with your resources, but also with your heart. When fragile foundations crumble, only what has been built on the rock remains firm. What a profound and transformative testimony this is. The Bible warns us about this powerful truth in Hebrews chapter 12, verse 27. Only that which is unshakable will remain. I am immensely grateful, Miguel, for sharing with us this impactful and urgent experience. And to you who have followed us this far, may God's blessings reach you and strengthen you in this prophetic time. Build your life on the rock, not on the sand. We will meet in the next video. Remember, the signs should not cause panic, but rather invite us to awaken. Live with faith, live with purpose, always live prepared.